I want you to picture a scenario
Okay.
and uh, be honest with yourself here, because I think we have all been in this exact spot at one point or another.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a grocery store or maybe sitting in the passenger seat of a car, just aggressively tapping your foot?
Yeah, that familiar hot prickle of impatience creeping up the back of your neck?
Exactly. You're running some completely mundane errand with a family member. Maybe
Yeah.
they're taking, entirely too long to pick out a loaf of bread. Or they are telling you a story you have absolutely heard 5 times before.
Right.
You are physically there with them, but mentally you're miles away. You're just wishing for the whole thing to wrap up so you can get back to your actual day.
It is a profoundly universal human experience. I mean, we spend so much of our daily energy waiting for the next thing to happen that we end up just bulldozing right over the reality of the present moment.
Yeah.
And ironically, we tend to do this most often with the people we are closest to.
That is exactly the very specific, very relatable friction that brings us to our focus today. We are doing a deep dive into the work of Dr. Feng Cheng-Kar.
Specifically, his writings from the Mindful Gym website.
Right. And for those who might not be familiar, Mindful Gym it's not a physical gym with weights.
No, not at all.
It's a structured, practical, mindfulness-based stress reduction program that Dr. Feng developed. And the mission of our deep dive today is to figure out how a surprisingly simple shift in perspective can take those exact moments.
The frustrating ones.
Yeah, the frustrating, the mundane, the everyday chores, and transform them into deeply cherished experiences.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin to bridge the gap between being intensely annoyed in a grocery store and feeling a deep sense of mindfulness?
Well, we begin at the intersection of ancient philosophy and modern psychology.
Okay.
The entire framework of Dr. Fang's approach to these frustrating moments is built around a single, incredibly potent Japanese concept. And that concept is Ichigo Ichie.
Ichigo Ichie.
It has a really great rhythm to it. How are we defining that in the context of this mindfulness practice?
It translates essentially to one time, one meeting.
One time, one meeting.
Right. Historically, this is a concept deeply rooted in the traditions of the Japanese tea ceremony, as well as broader Zen practices. If you break it down, Ichigo means one or first, period or time,
Okay.
and Ichi means one or first, meeting or gathering. The core realization of Ichigo Ichie is that every single moment in life is entirely unique and completely unrepeatable. Meaning, it's the understanding that a specific encounter is a once-in-a-lifetime event that will literally never happen again in the exact same way.
On the surface, that sounds a bit obvious, right? I mean, time only moves in one direction.
True.
But applying it seems like it requires a heavy philosophical shift.
Yeah.
Because that is just not how our brains naturally operate.
No, it's not. What's fascinating here is how this pushes back against our basic neurology. Our brains are basically prediction machines.
Right, to save energy.
Exactly. To conserve energy, they constantly categorize things as routine. We wake up, we think, oh, I have coffee with my friend every Tuesday. It's the same coffee shop, the same friend, the same Tuesday routine.
So we just check out.
We stop actually experiencing it because our brain tells us we already know what's going to happen. But Ichigo Ichie argues that even if you meet the exact same person in the exact same coffee shop at the exact same time tomorrow, the moment itself is completely new.
Because the environment changes.
The environment, yes. The light coming through the window is different. Your internal moods have shifted. The background noise is different. The precise chemistry of that exact meeting is unrepeatable.
So you really can't just hit replay a Tuesday morning. That automatically makes the mundane feel a lot more fragile.
It does.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Dr. Fang brings in a wonderful parable called The Emperor's Three Questions to anchor this mindful gym philosophy.
I love this part.
The parable asks three seemingly simple questions to determine how we should live. First, what is the most important time? The answer is N now W.
Oh.
Second, who is the most important person? The answer is the one you are with N now W. And third, what is the most important thing to do? The answer is to care for that person now W.
I really want to push on that third point a bit, because I think it challenges our modern operational definition of what it means to care for someone.
How so?
Usually when we think of caring, we think of actionable, grand gestures. We think of throwing a surprise party, buying a thoughtful gift, or dropping everything to fix a massive problem for a friend. But in the context of the Emperor's Three Questions, care isn't necessarily a grand action. Is just being there really enough?
It is, because it strips away all the performative aspects of our relationships. Giving someone your undivided now is positioned as the absolute highest form of care.
That makes sense.
Think about how rare it is today to have someone's complete, unfragmented attention. We're constantly glancing at screens or planning our next response. So the act of being fully, undeniably present with the person in front of you, that is pure care.
It's like asking, are you actually here with me?
Exactly. That is the quiet question driving all of our interactions.
And that theoretical idea is put to a very rigorous, real-world test in a personal story Dr. Fang shares. He writes about his elderly mother.
It's a beautiful story.
It is, and I want to lay out the details here because they are so vividly ordinary. Every Sunday morning, Dr. Fang fetches his mom to go to a busy local market. It is just their small, weekly ritual.
Right?
She walks quite slowly from stall to stall. She buys vegetables. She picks out chicken. She gets fruits for the week. She stops and chats with the stall owners. And, crucially for our discussion, she takes a notoriously long time meticulously choosing her vegetables.
It's a wonderfully human scene. You can easily imagine the noise of the market, the crowds, the humidity. But of course, with ordinary life comes the friction of reality. This is where the rubber really meets the road for mindfulness.
Right, because Dr. Fang is incredibly honest about this dynamic. Because of her aging, his mother can be forgetful. During these trips, she sometimes repeats the exact same story she's told him countless times.
Yeah.
Sometimes she nags him. Sometimes she quarrels with his sister. It is not some sanitized, perfectly zen outing. It's messy, real life.
And his initial internal reaction to that messiness is something everyone listening can relate to. He admits that he used to feel the deep sense of impatience. He felt that exact foot-tapping, let's get this over with feeling we discussed earlier.
He was physically pushing the cart at the market.
But mentally, he was miles away, rushing to the finish line of the errand so he could get back to his real work.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. When you're sweating in a crowded market, and your relative is spending 10 minutes debating the merits of two identical heads of cabbage while nagging you about something you did yesterday.
It's tough.
It is incredibly difficult to just flip a switch and feel mindful. Your sympathetic nervous system is practically screaming at you to keep moving. How does he actually bridge that gap?
It requires a deliberate interruption of your neural defaults, which usually comes from a stark realization of reality.
Which was what for him?
For Dr. Fang, he looked at his aging mother and confronted a very difficult truth. One day, she will no longer be here. When that day comes, these slow, seemingly endless Sunday market trips will abruptly cease to exist.
They'll just be gone.
They will become only memories. And the most poignant part of his realization is his understanding that when she is gone, he won't just miss the pleasant parts of the morning. He will actually miss the nagging.
You will even miss the nagging.
Yes.
That recontextualizes the annoyance entirely. It forces you to look at the friction not as a hurdle, but as a feature of having this person in your life.
Precisely. It takes the very thing that is spiking your blood pressure and frames it as a finite, precious resource. If you only had 3 more times to be nagged by someone you love before they were gone forever, you would probably hang on to every word.
So practically speaking, how does he implement this in the aisle of the market?
He uses Ichigo Ichie as a cognitive anchor. Now, when they are walking through the market, and she is taking forever to pick out a cabbage or repeating a familiar story, he gently reminds himself, this is Ichigo Ichie. This Sunday morning will never come again.
Wow. It pulls him out of his spiraling impatience and drops him right back into the reality of the present.
Yes. And notice the behavioral change this internal shift brings about. Because he suddenly views this mundane chore as a literal once-in-a-lifetime meeting, his physical reality changes.
Oh, so?
He notes that he slows down his walking pace, he listens more carefully without interrupting, he smiles more often, he quietly appreciates the preciousness of the moment, and this aligns perfectly with how Mindful Jim defines mindfulness.
Which is?
It's paying attention to present moment experiences with an attitude of kindness, a beginner's mind, and wisdom.
He embodies all three right there by the vegetable stall. The wisdom to know she won't be around forever, the kindness to smile and listen, and the beginner's mind to experience the routine market trip as if it is entirely new.
Exactly. But bridging that gap from theory to action is the hardest part.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Dr. Fang knows how hard this is. He doesn't just leave us with a deeply moving story about his mother. He lays out a framework.
He does.
He offers 5 specific, highly practical ways to actually practice Ichigo Ichie in our daily lives, based on the Mindful Gym curriculum.
Mm.
So if someone listening wants to apply this today, maybe they are dreading a status meeting at work or they know they have a tense dinner ahead of them, how do they start?
The first step in the framework is called pause with mindful stop.
Mindful stoppy.
It is a literal instruction to break your momentum. The idea is to take a brief moment to physically and mentally stop whatever you are doing. You take a breath, you observe your surroundings and your internal state, and then you continue with gratitude.
I can see the value in that, but the friction there is real. When you're rushing through a corporate environment or trying to get the kids out the door for school, stopping feels counterintuitive. It feels like you are losing time.
It does feel that way, but that feeling is an illusion created by stress. When we're rushing, we're running on pure autopilot. We react to things rather than responding to them.
Right.
The mindful stoppy acts as a mental circuit breaker. By forcing a pause, even just for 3 seconds, to take a single deep breath, you are taking the steering wheel back from your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes stress and fear, and handing it back to your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and emotional regulation.
So you aren't losing time.
No, you are regaining control of how you experience that time.
That makes a lot of sense. You have to break the circuit before you can reroute the power. That brings us to the second technique, practice NWing.
Yes, NWing.
This is all about actively labeling your current actions to anchor your attention to the present. The examples Dr. Fang gives are simple internal monologues like now walking or now listening. He also uses a very specific, great example, now savoring techam,
Ah, yes.
which is a popular mixed coffee and tea drink in Southeast Asia.
That practice of labeling might sound a bit elementary at first, but it is a highly effective cognitive tool. When you internally narrate, now savoring my drink or now walking to my car, you are giving your brain a specific job to do in the present moment.
I could definitely use this on my commute or in those endless back-to-back Zoom meetings, just telling myself, now logging in, now listening to Gary from accounting read his spreadsheet. It keeps you tethered.
That is the perfect application. Our minds wander because they have the bandwidth to do so. By labeling the present action, you are taking up that bandwidth.
You're fencing it in.
You're building a fence around the present moment and telling your brain to stay inside it, rather than letting it wander off to the emails you have to send later or the argument you had yesterday.
Which leads right into step 3, see with beginner's mind. We touched on this briefly with the market story, but let's really dig into the mechanics of it. How do we actually do this?
Dr. Fang suggests consciously looking at familiar things as if you are seeing them for the very first time. Now, from a neurological perspective, this is challenging.
Why is that?
As we discussed, familiarity breeds a kind of cognitive blindness. When you look at your spouse or your children, or the route you drive to work every day, your brain isn't really processing the visual information fresh. It is pulling up a saved memory of what it expects to see because that takes less energy.
So we literally stop seeing the people we spend the most time with. We just see our assumptions of them.
Precisely. Adopting a beginner's mind forces you to override that predictive coding. You have to consciously look for details you've tuned out.
Like what?
You might notice the specific cadence of your partner's voice, or a new expression on your child's face, or even just the way the light hits a tree on your street that you've ignored for 5 years. By consciously adopting fresh eyes, you give ordinary, mundane moments the opportunity to surprise you again.
It requires a lot of active energy. But the payoff is that you actually get to live in reality rather than a simulation of your own memories.
Exactly.
And I think that active energy is also a huge prerequisite for step 4, listen fully.
This is perhaps the most difficult step of all. Dr. Fang places a massive emphasis on this, instructing that when someone speaks, you must give them your absolute full attention.
It's so rare.
It ties directly back to the Emperor's 3 questions. Deep listening is the practical application of giving someone your undivided now. It's one of the greatest forms of care.
I'd argue it is so difficult because most of the time we aren't actually listening. We're just waiting for our turn to speak. We hear the first half of someone's sentence, assume we know where they're going, and spend the second half formulating our brilliant response.
And in doing so, we have completely abandoned the present moment. We have left Ichigo Ichie behind. Deep listening requires you to silence your own internal monologue. It means listening without the intent to reply, but simply with the intent to understand.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, which is why we rarely do it, but it is also why it feels like such a profound gift when someone actually does it for us.
Which brings us to the 5th and final step of the framework. Appreciate before it passes.
Yeah.
Dr. Fang offers what I think is the ultimate anchoring question you can ask yourself in any situation. He
Yes.
asks, if this moment never comes again, how would I experience it?
It is a sobering question, but highly effective. It forces immediate perspective.
It really does. If you are in the middle of a petty argument about who forgot to take out the trash, or you are stuck in gridlock traffic, and you ask yourself, if this moment never comes again, how would I experience it? It immediately diffuses the tension. The anger just seems completely inadequate for the situation.
It shrinks the annoyance down to its proper size. And Dr. Fang shares the answer to that anchoring question via the Mindful Gym slogan itself.
Right.
If this moment never comes again, how should you experience it? Be present, be calm, be grateful.
Be present, be calm, be grateful. Those three pillars seem to hold up the entire Ichigo Ichie philosophy. And clearly, this concept of one time, one meeting had a massive lasting impact on Dr. Fang himself, extending way beyond just those Sunday market trips. There's a great detail he shares about how he chose to internalize this.
Yes, he notes that he was so inspired by the depth of this concept that he actually composed a piece of music about it. He wrote a Cantonese song called Ichigo Ichie, One Time, One Meeting.
Taking a psychological framework, applying it to a personal family challenge, and then turning it into a piece of art. It's a brilliant way to process it.
It also speaks to the human need to build structural reminders for ourselves. Creating a song is essentially engineering a mnemonic device. It is a way to encode a complex philosophical message into something you can easily carry with you.
A trigger for mindfulness.
Yes, a song can serve as a constant recurring reminder that every meeting, every single conversation is precious entirely because it will never return in exactly the same way. The music itself becomes an instrument of his mindfulness practice.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We have covered the neuroscience of routines, the psychology of stress, and the philosophy of time. But the core takeaway from Dr. Fang's work is profoundly accessible.
It really is.
Whether you are at a busy, noisy market feeling your blood pressure rise while someone takes 10 minutes to choose a cabbage, or you are just sitting quietly at your desk right now, applying Ichigo Ichie means waking up to the absolute unrepeatable beauty of right now. It's the hard-won realization that the ordinary, frustrating, mundane moments aren't the filler between the important parts of your life. They are your life.
This raises an important question, and it is something I want to leave you to mull over as you navigate the rest of your day. We so often hoard our best attention, our deepest patience, and our most profound gratitude for special occasions.
We really do.
We save them for holidays, birthdays, and major milestones. We tend to treat everyday chores and daily interactions as frustrating obstacles standing in the way of our real lives. But if the concept of Ichigo Ichie is true, and every single moment is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime event that will never be replicated in the history of the universe, how might that change the way you approach the most difficult, frustrating, or completely mundane person you interact with today? What if you treated your very next annoying encounter not as a burden to endure, but as a completely unrepeatable phenomenon?
Treating the annoyance as a finite, unrepeatable phenomenon, that takes the friction and turns it into pure gratitude. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the beauty of the present moment. We hope you take a little bit of Ichigo Ichie with you wherever you go next. Until next time, be present, be calm, and be grateful.